There's a moment early in Road 96 where the game asks the player why they watch movies. Is it to laugh, to cry, to solve a mystery, or maybe even to escape reality? This is a question that I actually spent a lot of time pondering while playing through this brilliant new adventure game from French developer DigixArt. Much like movies, I play games for a wide variety of reasons, including all the options I just named. However, the more I thought about it, I realized that there was an obvious answer. More than anything else, I play games to feel something and have a unique experience that I've never seen before. That is the perfect way to describe Road 96, which is why this politically charged road trip is one of the best games of 2021. Road 96 takes us back to an especially tumultuous moment in time for the fictional country of Petria. With an authoritarian leader in office and the media stoking discontent with never-ending stories about missing children and a protest group known as the Black Brigades, many fear that the country's extreme polarization could lead to violence on election day. That's just one of the reasons why so many teenagers are running away from home in hopes of being one of the few who's able to find refuge by sneaking past the militarized wall and entering the neighboring country. Now, the setup makes it sound like Road 96 is a deeply personal journey where a runaway teen finds themselves on the lonesome and often scary desert highways that make up Petria. But no, this is not that kind of game. In fact, the various teenagers you control are never given a name or even a personality. They're just one of the many missing kids that the news uses to whip up the gullible audience into a frenzy. They're a conduit, if you will, to tell the real story of Road 96. You see, when you peel back the runaway teenager conceit, what you have are the intersecting stories of 8 strangers who are all connected by a deadly event that happened back in 1986. We're introduced to each of these colorful characters in a series of vignettes that range from sweet to sad to genuinely scary. A small part of the story will be revealed every single time we run into one of these strangers, giving us a better understanding of Petria and the people who live there. One of those that we're introduced to early on is a fellow runaway named Zoe, who's a bit of a kleptomaniac with a strong independent side. Speaking of missing teenagers, there's also Alex, a genius with technology who is searching for more information about his biological parents. Of course, sometimes the shoe is on the other foot, which just happens to be the case with Fanny, a brigade-hating cop who's in search for her own missing teenager. Another person you'll run into is Sonia Sanchez, a self-absorbed news anchor who's gotten rich and famous for carrying water for an authoritarian regime. Somehow, she's connected to a couple of bungling burglars who claim to be her biggest fans while robbing $14 from a fast food restaurant. And oh yeah, let's not forget about that creepy taxi driver who may or may not be a serial killer. Each of these stories feel separate and unconnected at first, but as election day nears, you'll start to see how all of their paths will intersect in fun and satisfying ways. Yeah, this is just about the closest a video game has ever come to being a Robert Altman film. No matter which runaway teenager you're controlling, the goal is always the same. Stay alive long enough to make it past the wall. This is not as easy as it sounds, because everything from walking on the side of the road to hitchhiking will decrease your health. You'll need to rummage around for leftover food and find safe sleeping spots in order to stay healthy, and even that may not be enough when you finally attempt to escape Petria. No matter if you're hiding in the back of a truck, paying a coyote to sneak you across, or literally climbing a mountain, crossing that wall is no easy task. You never know what obstacle's gonna get in your way. All of this works because the story is genuinely compelling and the conversations are well written. We get to see the conflict and polarization from a bunch of different sides, and the decisions you make along the way can be gut-wrenching at times. But at the same time, a lot of the moments are funny. I always looked forward to seeing somebody like John, an oversized teddy bear of a trucker who reliably made me smile. And just as quickly as you were laughing it up with John, you'll all of a sudden fear for your life whenever that creepy taxi driver shows up. The game is real good about switching moods and even genres without warning, making each playthrough feel both unpredictable and exhilarating. The sessions are also unique, which is important because you'll be hitting the road 7 different times between June 11th and Election Day. The game knows that you're going to be repeating the process a bunch of different times, so they keep the repetition to a minimum. You can earn new abilities and information that'll open up new aspects of the road trip. And even when you see the same sights and locations, they'll have changed thanks to the passage of time. And with the drum beat of the story growing louder with each playthrough, there's never a point where it feels like filler. There's something special and memorable about every session, even if it's just you playing air hockey in a bar that you're definitely too young to get into. Now look, if you're gonna force me to come up with things that I don't like about Road 96, then I guess I'd have to point to something like the inconsistent presentation. For the most part, I like the cartoony look of the world and the characters. But there are definitely times when it looks closer to a PlayStation 2 cutscene than a modern video game. I'm specifically talking about the clips from Sonia's news show, which sees her awkwardly holding a microphone that just never looks convincing. Thankfully, the stylish art direction does help to overshadow a few of the lesser moments. But I wish the graphics were more consistent. I'm also a little confused about the size of Petria. There are sessions where you'll be traveling more than 2,000 miles over the course of just a few days, suggesting that this is a massive country that you won't easily escape. However, you'll still keep running into the same strangers no matter where you are on the map. It would be like Fanny pulling you over in Seattle one day, only to have Fanny pull you over again one day later in Dallas, Texas. Not only is that a 31-hour drive, but you would think that it would be thousands of miles outside of her jurisdiction. Look, it ultimately doesn't matter because the story is so damn good. But I will admit that I definitely spent a lot of the game scratching my head trying to make sense of the mileage. Will this be something that you remember after playing Road 96? Of course not. When you look back at your time hitchhiking across Petria, you're gonna remember the colorful characters, the politically charged story, the lessons you learned on the road, and who knows, maybe even that one time that you got into a high-speed pursuit with the cops. You're gonna remember this for being a truly original adventure that sees runaways get into deep and thought-provoking conversations with characters you actually want to hang out with. Well, except for the guy who may or may not be a serial killer, but that goes without saying. One of the most original games of 2021 is also one of the best. Road 96 is an endlessly inventive road trip filled with crazy characters and political intrigue. It's one of the few games where you'll go from scavenging for discarded food to working with burglars to narrowly escaping a serial killer, all within just a few minutes. This is a confident game that effortlessly sways between humor, drama, and horror, revealing an expertly crafted story that is simultaneously heartwarming and gut-wrenching. I guarantee that Road 96 will be the best hitchhiking simulator that you'll play all year. Hey, thanks for watching our review. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new reviews and features almost every day. Now, here's the question I have for you. What game characters do you want to go on a road trip with? It can be a full team of characters, or who knows, maybe it's just one super useful character. I'm excited to see how you answer this one in the comments below. In other news, we'll be back later this week with a review of Green Phoenix and a Game Over episode that looks at one of my favorite franchises. If that sounds good to you, then I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then,